Hi there and welcome to She Spice. So it seems to be that the rush of help for CatWilliams isn't dialing back at any point in the near future, particularly since Charlie Sheen has evidently jumped on board the Allies train. In addition to the fact that he's backing up as feline, at the same time he's sharing his own story of how Hollywood apparently drove him to monetary ruin. I mean, we're discussing a person who is an outright legend, thriving. Remember when he was administering the television screens and pulling in a stunning $1.8 million for only one episode of 2.5 Men? Back in 2010, insane, right? Some way or another, someplace along the line, he hit rock base. So what's the arrangement? How can somebody go from swimming in wealth to scarcely scratching by? Well, clutch your seats since we're going to bring a profound jump into the delicious subtleties, so we should rewind back to 2018. Where some really powerful court records, Charlie Sheen dropped a sensation, guaranteeing he was need somewhere down in a critical monetary emergency with a meager $10 million to his name. To a large portion of us ordinary people, that still seems like a really strong load of cash. However, for a person who used to round up a stunning $8 million for each episode, it's somewhat of a rude awakening. He's even gone similar to requesting to slice his kid support installments, referring to a dry spell in consistent work and being basically removed from Hollywood's celebrity club. You realize the term boycotted in Tinseltown conveys some serious weight, and Sheen's guaranteeing he got hit with that name. But it's not on the grounds that he was on some unacceptable side of some political discussion or any such thing, as per one Fat Cat studio executive spilling the beans to. Cutoff time back in 2011. Sheen fundamentally became uninsurable, which implies no one needed to contact him with a 10-foot shaft, since they couldn't ensure he wouldn't fly out of control once more, and we should run our recollections. A piece here recalls when Sheen's life experienced a plunge and his CBS show 2.5 Men went on break. Back in January 2011, Fella registered himself with recovery fighting his devils of liquor and misuse, making it his 9th stretch in recovery. In addition, there were those alarming allegations of aggressive behavior at home, twirling around then to finish everything off. Sheen, who was rounding up boatloads of money as the most generously compensated television star of the time, chose to bet everything, requesting an incredible half raise. However, he didn't stop there. Good gracious! He likewise freely tossed conceal at the show's co-maker, Frolura, which essentially closed his destiny, hurling Sheen. The show turned into an easy decision for the higher-ups after that chaotic separation tales whirled about Sheen seeing as a new parody gig. However, insiders were as suspicious as could be expected. So there's this entire prattle happening about whether there's something else to Charlie Sheen. Hollywood exile besides what might be immediately obvious. You realize his wild ventures are basically carved in stone, yet even before he was yelling about tiger blood, he wasn't precisely a stroll in the part. To work with back in the brilliant long stretches of More Than 2 Men. His co-star John Cryer spilled a few beans as per Proclaimer things, started off all blushing with Sheen probably 2 years clean when the series originally hit the screens. However, at that point bam Denise Richards petitions for legal separation in 2005, and when season 2 moved around, the two Sheen and Messenger were newly single. Proclaimer spilled the tea, and in his 2015 journal, So That Happened, uncovering that Sheen experienced a plunge into the clouded side when 2010 moved in shooting, turned into a genuine battle. Earlier portrayed Sheen seeming as though he just grappled with a wild bear skinny pail and breaking out in a cold sweat, and his acting very much, we should simply say it, began to look like a messy drama. Lines were failed to remember generally, and Sheen's difficult exercise on set some of the time included gripping onto furniture for dear life. Warner Brothers made a splash backing up these cases, saying jokes resembled throwing an explosive into a generally tense climate on set. Sheen ultimately entered recovery in 2011, and the show went on break to give him the time he really wanted. That is when things truly self-destructed, when Sheen pronounced he was spotless and prepared to shake again. Creation didn't commit, and you can have no doubt in the world that Sheen wasn't having any of it. He went full scale, pointing fingers at the show's maker, hurl legend, and tossed sufficient shade to cover the whole Hollywood sign. Sheen even went to the extent of calling legend a few not-so-decent names before the entire TMZ swarm. He said he's an idiotic, inept little man and a puny punk that I'd never need to resemble, yet things hit absolute bottom. At the point when Warner Brothers formally let Sheen go in Walk 2011, they didn't keep sending a heavy 11-page letter to Sheen's lawful crew, illuminating precisely why they were giving him his dismissal notices. They got straight to the point, referring to crime offenses, foolish ways of behaving, and out-and-out unpredictable direct. It resembled a clothing rundown of Sheen's most prominent hits, destroying in-rooms, abusive behavior at home charges, and so on. They likewise pummeled that your client has been taken part in perilously pointless direct and gave off the impression of being exceptionally sick. The letter incorporated various instances of Sheen's risky, like his constant tie strikes against Leor, his refusal to enter recovery, his 2010 destruction of a square lodging that caused no less than $7,000 in harm, and his 2009 capture on Doubt. Aggressive behavior at home. They likewise guaranteed that Sheen was missing practices, failing to remember his lines, declining to team up with partners, and offering fiery remarks. Harming key work connections. A legal counselor for the studio sent this letter got by TMZ to Sheen's attorney, pronouncing your client has participated in hazardously foolish direct and appears to be exceptionally sick. And Sheen, well, he wasn't precisely waving a white banner. No, he multiplied down, getting over the entire trial like it was a minor bother. He even took a hit at Leor in those senseless shirts he needed to wear on set. And he said, now I can take all of the bazillions. I never need to check out what the reference mark is on Bullet K once more. And I never need to get into those senseless shirts. An unrepentant Sheen told TMZ the shooting is generally excellent news, saying in a proclamation that now I can take all of the bazillions and I never need to get into those senseless shirts. Sheen had likewise been grappling with enslavement and evil presences for what feels like forever. I mean, we're talking way back to 1990, when he initially dunked his toes into recovery. Waters, however, remaining on the honest side, that appeared as though a ceaseless, daunting struggle in 98 things treated in a serious way, terrifying turn. Sheen wound up in recovery not once, but 2 times around the same time. First, there was that brush with death after a closed deadly excess. Then, to keep things fascinating, he got hit with a DUI. And we should not fail to remember 2010 and 2011. Sheen was stirring things up around the town scene again, this time after a few legendary drinking sprees that would leave a large portion of us seeing things yet get this in spite of the multitude of signs highlighting get help as quickly as possible. Sheen was all similar to nah, I'm great. As a matter of fact, he directly dissed the entire AA scene, saying it wasn't made for somebody as extraordinary as him with his alleged tiger blood and Adonis DNA, yet Sheen's fights weren't simply in secret. Poured out into the titles, medical clinic visits, attack charges, you name it, resembled watching a drama workout, all things considered. Then, in an amazing turn, Sheen dropped a sensation in 2019, uncovering he'd been engaging HIV beginning around 2012. He took ownership of his backslide, conceding he hit absolute bottom following 11 years of moderation. Watching his own wild tirades from that time humiliating doesn't actually start to cover it yet. Some of the time stirring things up around town. Lowe's is the stuff to at long last fire moving back up, and for Sheen, it was acknowledging he was outright worn out on letting everybody down. So after all the show and vulnerability, Charlie Sheen got back in the game to television in 2012 that had everybody talking his new gig outrage. That board started off with a bang, pulling in a record-breaking 5.47 million watchers for its debut, yet, as the platitude goes, nothing can escape the pull of gravity. And kid did Sheen's evaluations experience a plunge when the show enveloped with 2014, it was scarcely pulling in 500,000 eyeballs for each episode now. While a portion of the fault may land on the actual material, Sheen didn't precisely improve the situation with his tricks in the background. Recall when he conflicted with co-star Selma Blair. Better believe it. That was an entire wreck. She obviously had enough of Sheen's easygoing energy and steady lateness, so she shouted out a serious mix-up. Sheen had a tantrum and took steps to walk on the off chance that she wasn't booted off the show. Immediately, think about what, in no less than a day, Blair was out politeness of a blistering text from Sheen himself. Yet that was only the tip of the dramatization. Chunks of ice. Sheen wasn't bashful about circulating his complaints, particularly when it came to visitor star Lindsay Lohan. He called her out for being late to set, advantageously disregarding his own propensity for creating setbacks, and get this, when he professed to have laryngitis and stopped Creation supposedly he was really managing some noticeable medical problems connected with his mysterious HIV determination, so after Charlie Sheen got the boot from 2.5 Men and dips Ashton Kutcher at. Oh, fill his shoes and get this. They didn't simply supplant Sheen's personality. They made an entirely different job for Kutcher. However, even with Kutcher in the blend, the chance of Sheen's personality Charlie Harper making a rebound waited in the air. Quick forward to the show's final in 2015. And Hurl Leor, the genius behind everything, expressed a desire for peace to Sheen, believing that he should make. Subscribe She Spice for more videos.